What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. We are going to be checking out the Tempest Knives Jetstream today. Let's get into it. So what I'm going to be doing, I am going to do some size comparisons, profile comparisons. We'll check the weight, and then I'll give you my thoughts and impressions. But there is a caveat. This is a prototype. There are going to be definitely changes and different things that'll happen by the time it gets to production. So keep all that in mind as we dive into the knife. Having said that, let's get it started. First off, we're going to bring out a sub 3-inch knife. We're going to bring out the Devo Knives Pony Stout for the small knife comparison. And then for my large knife comparison, we're going to bring out the Sin-Cut Serene. And as you can see, the Jetstream is definitely more in line in what I would consider a full-size knife. Definitely big, not small, or bigger. I wouldn't say it's a bruiser or anything like that, but it's definitely big. Let's go ahead and bring out the Para 3 for another sub 3-inch knife. And then for a large comparison, let's go ahead and bring out the Sabenza 31 in Cosi and Magna Cut. And as you can see, Jetstream's definitely hanging out with the bigger boys on the table today. Last but not least, I always like to bring out the bug out. A lot of people familiar with the bug out have had a bug out, so that is a good size reference for everyone. And then I really love to bring the ProTech Mordax out here. This one is a bigger variant of the Malibu for the button lock from ProTech, and as you can see, Jetstream definitely up there in size. Having said that, let's do some quick profile comparisons in thickness for the Jetstream against these larger knives on the table today. As you can see, it's about the same thickness as a Mordax. We'll bring that Sabenza 31 back out here. Contoured scales are going to make it look a little bit odd, but it is about the same thickness when you get past those contoured scales. And then we'll bring that Serene back out here. And as you can see, about the same thickness as the Serene. Now, this does feel a little bit heavier. You got a pretty big back spacer. You do have milled out liners in here. It's got milling above that lock bar insert, and then you got a lot of milling down in here. A little hard to get with this lighting. You do have nicely milled liners or scales on the inside of the titanium. So let's check that weight real quick and see what we land on. Yeah, 5 ounces, just in 4.9 ounces. So closer to that 5-ounce weight, which isn't awful. I still think 5 ounces is very easy to carry, especially if it's going to be your main knife. So again, everything I'm about to get into is with the caveat that this is a prototype. It is being manufactured by Kubi, Tempest Knives designed by KC, so that should cover everything in the beginning. Having said that, very neutral ergos here with straight lines and minimal contouring. You have a very slight contour here, so that equates and translates to a very comfortable knife in hand, especially for larger hands. But I honestly would say even if you had medium hands, this would still be comfortable. It's just you're probably going to end up right around here with those medium hands. That's what it'll look like for you as far as what you have hanging off the back and how much space you'll have. But when you get to that large and oversized hands, really going to be nice and comfortable, and it feels great. The scale finish is done well. Kubi did a good job, even though this is the prototype. And I think KC is kicking around some ideas of some other potential finishes, but I don't want to spoil that. So I'm going to leave that for him to divulge later. But you got a nice stonewash finish on here, and it has a good tacky finish to it. So it still feels like you got some grip. It's not super slick like a polished metal. I really like that. Very well contoured all around here. There's no hot spots. The transition here for the insert for the pocket clip, it's very minimal. You feel just a tad bit or just a touch going from one to the other, but nothing sharp or anything that sticks out. You got nice knockdown here, so you have really good access to that lock bar. Knife, even though it is a prototype, is locking up at about 40%, maybe even 30. So you got good solid lock up there. Steel insert in the titanium scales, and I think he is looking to keep this very budget friendly at or just above the $100 mark, which is going to be phenomenal. And I know I'm getting a little bit ahead. We have the reverse tucks here, so silver or raw finished stone washed, and you have a stone washed black wash blade. And I think part of the reason that it's called the Jetstream, it looks like the nose of a jet. and maybe I'm just wanting to see that. And then you got the cockpit here, and then you got the start of the airplane body, and at least that feels like what the inspiration is. So cool. I like the name, and I definitely like the RR station. Kind of looks like a train in motion. This kind of definitely looks like the front or the beginnings of a jet. So really cool theme. You got a nice straight, no nonsense titanium pocket clip. Doesn't take away from the design aesthetic, functions very well, and it actually has plenty of clearance, goes all the way up to the stop point in the pocket. So I really like that a lot. Action on here, you got bearings in the pivot, you can see them there. So it's nice and smooth action. You got a stop pin, and the stop pin does not interfere with the sharpening tool because it is behind the flipper tab. So that is nice because it is underneath this piece here and not in the way at all. Sharpening tool comes right up to the end of the plunge grind, so really close, and it looks like it maybe even has a little bit of a smile from the factory there. So I would give that as feedback as let's bring this sharpening notch out just a little bit so that when someone does go to sharpen this, especially if this is going to be used a lot, you want to give them a little bit of sharpening life. So I would just bring that out just a skosh past that plunge grind here for the final variant. Just have it come up a little bit there. I think you can do a nice quarter moon shape and it'll look really good. It feels really thin, and I'm having a hard time with the black wash determining if this is a very shallow hollow grind or just a super thin flat grind, but it feels really thin behind the edge even though this is the prototype. You got a nice belly here for cutting, so when you go through your push cuts, it's not going to be as likely to slide out of the cut. You got lots of space here to get through thick materials. You got a drop point that comes down nice, so you don't have to get up high for your draw cuts, for your pinch cuts, any utility cuts that you're doing with that. So I like that design a lot. As far as feedback on the knife, the detent on the prototype is a little light, so you can, it's feeling like you can start to kind of fail it because, and again, I'm doing that on purpose because if I was following through on the flick, it wouldn't do that. But I feel like the detent could be improved just a little bit for the final variant. But if you are coming out, let's say this was the final product, you're not going to fail it if you're giving a follow through flick. It's just going to feel like a lighter detent. And I'd say the same thing with the flipper tab here. It does feel like it wants to start to fail a little bit when you're using that flipper tab. I love this very low profile flipper tab that's kind of baked into it. Not really sure why he's not coming up a little bit more here and out just a little bit more here, because it kind of, I would like to match the line of the knife. It looks like it's curving up and out instead of following the line, and I don't know if that's possible because I don't know what that would look like on this side. I think that curvature is so that it can match here, so if he could maybe flatten this out a little bit in the final product so that you can have that straight line there, I just think it would look clean. But again, that's a very nitpicky thing. It doesn't make the knife look bad. It doesn't degrade the performance of that flipper tab. It works very well, very easy to get to, and because of the way that it's ramped, it kind of naturally guides the finger out of the path of the knife from closing. So even though it looks like it would be, it's really well rounded here so that it does knock it up. But I think it would probably look okay. I know that it follows this line here, even though it goes up. This is kind of following the line over here. But I think if you could just flatten that out a little bit, even if you wanted to flatten the tip out so that you can flatten the lines out here, it kind of has like this, like it's diving down and then diving back up. And that could be the design. So I don't know. If he's not going for straight lines, which I totally get, leave it as is because there's really nothing wrong with it. I'm just trying to think of things that I'm noticing as I handle the knife and use it, just to give some feedback to see if that does anything for him with his thought process. As far as the detent, I think improving the detent would make it easier to thumb flick. For me, I have to kind of dig in because I slip off a little bit here, and then I have to kind of push into it to be able to get it to come out. That's really about it. Oh yeah, I did forget one thing. The jimping, he is doing it. I know he's not a fan of jimping on a knife. He doesn't really care for it, I don't think, from what I'm gathering. I could be wrong about that. But I'm thinking since you're doing the jimping, just go ahead and carry it out to the end of the cutout here where the actual hole is, not the cutout, but where the hole stops. I think if you carry that jimping out there, for those with larger hands, it's going to be really nice to grip onto. And it's really hard to see it from this perspective. Now, it could be different on the stonewash blade. It might be more noticeable. And I know this says D2, but I think the steel is yet to be determined. I think he's trying to decide that. But the jimping coming out to about where the hole ends, or maybe the top of the hole even, would be nice if you're gonna put the jimping on there in the final product. Just a suggestion. And then I'd like to see, if it doesn't add any cost, just add like a row of jimping here for extra grip, because when you're trying to, for those that close it like this, it's a little slick and you want to slide off it. And I think just a little bit of cutout jimping there where it's chamfered would make it nice for those that actually do close it this way, or even pulling up on it. It feels like I have to jam my finger in there to get it that way. And I know that there's a handful of people that don't come in from the side and let it fall. They actually kind of close it like this, turn it over, and then shake it shut. And then I know at least one person, or actually I know a couple of people that do prefer or also disengage the lock by pulling up on it. So that would be a little bit of something to consider. So hopefully some of that helps. Some of that feedback helps. Again, I know it's a prototype. When you get it in hand, that's usually when you're kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll change this, maybe I'll change that. And that's all I really want to do. I think it's a cool knife. It's a great design. I think of the options that I have heard, I know a lot of knives are running 14C 28N for their budget steel. And I think that's because it's a great steel. It's corrosive resistant, holds a good edge, very easy to sharpen, tough steel, and it allows you to bring the cost of the price down. I think what you end up seeing though is you see a lot of 14C with micarta, with G10. What he had mentioned, and I get where he's coming from, when you go to a steel like a 154 CM or a S30V with titanium, it allows you to keep that under $200, and you can play with the price points and you can play with the steel. It gives them some options to play with, and I don't know what is available for the price point that he's looking at, but he is looking to keep this affordable, and I think this is a great design. I know that we mentioned some finishing touches off camera on chat that I think are going to really make this stand out in the crowd, and I really would like to see him go through with that if he feels like that's really going to help push this knife to make it stand out. For me, I really like this. It's a great size for me. I really enjoy the way it feels in hand. Kubi did a phenomenal job with the finishes, even on the prototype. I mean, if I had two things to take away for it, it would definitely be go with what we mentioned for the final finishing touches that you're thinking about around on the scales, and I would improve that detent. Even if you came with this to production today, those would be like the two main things that I would want to address. Everything else really is just minor little things, and some of that obviously personal preference. Anyway, let me know, and let Tempest Knives know down in the comment what you think about this, what you would like to see, what type of finishes, color combos, anything that you would like to see done differently. I think it will provide value to Tempest Knives to see that in the comments on these videos, because it'll help them determine what takes priority based on how much feedback they get back. And I know you guys as a community would love to be able to give your input, and this is the best time and the best opportunity for you to do that. Thank you, Tempest Knives, for letting me check this out. I will be passing it on to the next person. Shout out to everyone out there that watches the videos, leaves a like, comments, and has subscribed with that notification bell turned on. I appreciate that support. It means the world to me. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.